Welcome back to Inside the MAC. Today we are looking at rivalry week. We got Eastern Michigan taking on Central Michigan, 1 o'clock Saturday. Probably going to do something fun for that game. Before we get into this, I just got to vent my frustration. I'm not the most tech-savvy guy. I'm decent with tech, but man, getting this webcam to go was a nightmare. Anyway, diving into this Eastern versus Central game. It's going to be interesting. It's at Central. Central comes in 2-2. Eastern comes in 1-3. A couple of the betting lines here. The over/under set at 54.5. Eastern Michigan plus 200. Central minus 240 on the money line, and then it's a 6.5 point spread both ways. So plus 6.5 for Eastern to cover, minus 6.5 for Central to cover. But with all that being said, the FPI, which ESPN Analytics, we all know, we've seen the polls with it, so it's not always great. But they do their matchup predictor, and there's a 50.8% chance they say Eastern wins, 49.2% that Central wins. Who knows? You know, it's hard to take some of those into account just with, it's not bad analytics, but sometimes the analytics lie a little bit. Not lie might not be the right word, but misguide. They just take into a lot of things that don't really matter in the outcome of the game, but I digress. In the last 10 years, Central's had this pretty even, though it's 6-4. Central's won the last 10. Last year, 38-34 win for the Eagles, though. Obviously, that was in Ypsilanti. And Central leads the series 64-32-6. All right, why don't we get into the keys to victory here? Because I think this is going to be a very telling game for both these teams. All right, they've both had kind of interesting schedules. As far as, Central obviously got dog walks by Michigan. Eastern's had a couple big games where they just got dominated on, but they looked good against Kentucky, who's an SEC opponent. So they've both shown signs of looking good. They've both shown signs of yikes. Eastern's key to victory, they got to protect the football. With Central's offense, you can't afford turnovers, and turnovers lose your games anyway. But I think when you're playing a run-heavy team, especially a run-heavy team, you've got to protect the football. You got to take care of those possessions. The other thing they got to do, which they have not done because they are last in all of Division I FBS in this, stop the run. All right, Eastern is giving up almost 300 yards a game on the ground, which is not good. And when you're facing a team that wants to run the football primarily, that's going to be kind of tough. But, you never know what's going to happen with them. I kind of see that Central's going to want to pound the football because why wouldn't you against a team that has struggled this season to stop the run? Last thing they got to do, and this is going to be the hardest, and this is kind of a key for both, and we'll get into it more after, they got to control the clock. When you're playing a team that runs heavy and can take care of the clock, you also then in turn have to control the clock to the best of your ability. If you're maybe a more up-tempo offense, you kind of got to pace yourself back, slow it down, get the right calls in. And then we turn to Central, their keys to victory. Smash mouth football, which goes in hand with dominate the possession, time of possession. That's their bread and butter. They want to run the ball. Now they just need to do it to an excessive amount. All right, and then I'll say they got to capitalize on stalls drives. Eastern, both teams at some point bound to have a 3-and-out, bound to have maybe a first down and then a 3-and-out after that, or turnovers might be low in this game. I think Eastern's going to try and do some things, but who knows? But here's where you have to, if you get a chance, they go 3-and-out, you got to capitalize that. Take the clock, run the ball, slow the pace of play down, and make Eastern kind of be on their heels. And then the last thing. And I've been saying this, I said it with Western, all right? I said it with Western. They got to stick with Brock Lowry. They went and did that, and they upset Toledo at home. Kind of the same thing with Central here. They need to just stick with Joe Labas, I think is how it was said. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head. I was saying it wrong. But here's the thing when it comes to the two quarterback system is there's the old saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And I believe that to be true. Now, there's guys in Central's team that can do some things, that are good players and good quarterbacks. But I'm gonna pull this up real quick. All right, you look at week 1, they ran two quarterback system. Angel Flores was in there. Then they go against Pitt. They run 3 quarterbacks. Jaden Glasser was the other one in there. And then they go back to the 2 quarterbacks against Michigan and Angel Flores again. And then the Wagner game, Ethan Lane came in. That was more garbage time. But Angel Flores only threw one ball. All right, and he ran it 9 times. But here's what I'm going to say: you can do a two-quarterback system if it's not a true two-quarterback system. And what I mean by that is Joe's your guy. He's your quarterback. He's QB1. But you use Angel in situations. He's a dynamic runner. He's a dynamic playmaker. Use him in situations where it's not really a wildcat because you're not putting your best athlete back there, but you're putting a kid that can throw the ball, but also is a dynamic athlete. I think he's good in red zone, short yardage situation stuff, but they got to kind of stick with that. Let Joe do the throwing, and if you can have RPO attached to it and all that good stuff, but they got to start going away from strictly the meshing of the quarterbacks, flipping drives in and out. I don't love it. It doesn't tend to work. All right, now we're going to time of possession because you see it more at the high school level with teams that run the wing T, the tight T, the veer, all of that stuff. They're waiting until they see that back judge do one of these, and that's when they're snapping the football, and that's kind of how it goes. You can't let that happen if you're Eastern. You got to get Central into uncomfortable third downs. Third and medium, third and long, I think that's where Eastern is going to have a shot at this game, is if they're not giving up 5-6 yards on first down. If they can keep Central back into these pass first situations, that's going to make them more dynamic. Not that Central's pass game is terrible, but I think it's significantly worse than their run game. I think the Central runs the ball very, very well. And when your new head coach, offensive line guy, no surprise there. This is going to be such an interesting game because I think Eastern's offense, I said this earlier this week, that they can will them to wins. And what I mean by that is their offense is explosive. They have playmakers up and down the roster on the offensive side of the ball, and they can, because of the explosive plays, keep them in games they might not be able to be in because of the explosion and that one play they can flip it. And momentum's going to be key in this game. Sitting at home, I'll be officially doing my predictions Friday. As it stands right now, I don't know. I'm very, very split down the middle on what I can see happening. Because right now, I would say I'd probably lean towards Central. And I would say that because Eastern has shown they struggle to stop the run, and Central's shown they can run the ball really well. And to me, that's if Central goes with a game plan of smash mouth, control the clock, I think they can win it. But if Eastern can answer all these drives and be productive on offense, it could be a shootout. It could be an interesting game. Like I said, I'll have my final predictions coming Friday on this. But, boy, am I excited for 1 p.m. this Saturday. Like I said, we'll do something fun with it. I got a couple ideas brewing. We'll see what that's going at. That's your look into Eastern versus Central. It's rivalry week here on Inside the MAC.